So last year we had a subpar tournament called the Nicecast Tourney, and in there was a handful of indie games and just random games in general that were kind of up our alley. And we kind of had a fun, every month you had a different game or 2 games. And Animal Well was one of those games, and I really fell in love with it. I also am a sucker for like documentaries or like behind the scenes type thing. But this game was absolutely gorgeous. I know a lot of my friends struggled to play it just because it felt a little too aimless for them. Like they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. And I did feel that way at first, but after I just stopped caring and just kind of started running around, seeing what I could figure out, like the depth of this game is just immense. So very excited to see this. Let's kick back and let's watch this together, chat. See what you guys think.
Yeah, in 2017, I started working on Animal Well.
Hopefully, can you guys hear that okay?
For a long time, it was just like nonstop thinking about the game. And it wasn't so much that like I had this external deadline. It was more the game had just grown into this like obsession. I wanted to feel like this complete artifact or like object, like the games I grew up with. It has a start and an end, and whatever's in it is in it, and it will always be that way.
I watch E3 and it's like 300 video games, and I'm like, I don't want to play any of these. I was like, oh, there's one that kind of looks cool.
There's also like this sunk cost fallacy where the more time you invest in something, the more it needs to like pay off.
Billy was like, no, there's a lot more I still want to put in this game.
The only way to move beyond it was to finish the game.
Legends. Into the well.
All right, so here we got a big Secret of Mana poster. One of my favorites. Not many people know, but this poster kind of holds a secret. I had to invest in another piece to be able to frame this.
Oh.
It's also very beautiful in its own way, but he wouldn't. It's kind of not something everybody gets to see. Secrets have always been important to me, and like are kind of like just the most memorable part of games.
They are.
Finding
you find
like
those
the
secrets,
warp
man.
Whistle in Mario 3, or the fact that they're in there, it doesn't necessarily like make sense, or it doesn't seem necessary, but they're
like in general, just this like this game did really good with like, for example, in Zelda, The Legend of Zelda, when you find the flute, it blows your mind the first time you find that flute. You're like, what? And this game did such a good job at that. Like you find these items and they seem really simple and maybe unimportant. And then you start playing around with them and you start finding all these uses for them that you're like, oh my God, this is game changing. And then it's just one after another and another and another. And it's just, oh.
Still such a common part of game design sort of culture, especially in like the 80s and 90s and stuff. Like it was kind of just assumed that games had secrets or they had cheat codes.
Yes. Doom had some
I've
sweet
been
secrets
playing
too.
games since I was a kid. Some of my earliest memories were like getting an NES for my 3rd birthday and playing like, I think the first game I ever played was like Super Mario Brothers. Kind of just been one of my favorite things like throughout my life. It was like probably always like my top hobby.
Oh, there's the Nighttopian. God, we gotta bonk him, yeah.
But I never really knew that I wanted to make games. Throughout my life, I had a lot of different interests, and early on, I think I wanted to either be a cartoonist. I liked drawing a lot, but also was kind of always interested in engineering without really realizing it. Like, playing with like Legos and Kinects and just taking things apart. Later on, when I was in like middle school and like high school, got into like movie making stuff. I kind of discovered my parents' like camcorder and would go around the neighborhood and like shooting like Jackass style videos with my friends where we would just like
Yes, we all did it. We all did it. It's so nice to see.
climb up on roofs and like
Fellow
the
shenaniganers.
joke was just like, okay, now jump off the roof and like get hurt. And so I remember
Jump out of the tree.
It was like that. We're like, oh, cool. You hurt your ankle. Let's go do it again.
Project Badass. Oh my God.
Excellent.
And that ultimately all led to me like going to film school at Columbia College here in Chicago. Did a 4-year degree.
Yeah, I really didn't know much about this dude beforehand, but I did hear that he was, a YouTuber that did solo or whatever, and I thought that was really cool at the time when I picked the game for the tourney.
I was there, kind of realized I wasn't quite at the same level of passion as some of my peers, where I had classmates that, they'd like find a student film to go help with like every weekend. And I remember just being more interested in messing with my PC or playing games on Steam. I played a lot of like Team Fortress 2 at the time. After doing a little bit of like introspection, I was like, okay, the things I really care about are like computers and games. And that's like what really occupies my thoughts on a daily basis, like involuntarily. It's like, I feel like people always like tell you to like find the thing that's like really easy for you to do that you're passionate about, and you'll be able to just like work so much harder and you'll have like an advantage. And so realized I was like obsessed with computers and games. It was during like the summer of like 2011, I think. I was teaching myself to program. I was using this programming language called processing, which was geared towards artists and let you draw shapes and different images and text and stuff, all like very, very little code, so you can quickly just get something visual and interactive up on screen. The way I was testing it out was making like a little Space Invaders like clone, where you have like your ship that shoots these bullet objects, and then the ship has like a shoot method, and then you have like a game mode with a score, and the score like goes up, and it just felt like an intuitive way for me to like kind of understand these concepts. And then it was like, then I was like, oh, this is like how games are made. Like I'm finding myself like making a game right now, and this is really, really fun. That was like kind of a moment where it all like kind of clicked a little bit, and I decided like, okay, I kind of want to pivot and get into programming. So I went back to school at DePaul here in Chicago, and they actually had a game development program. I found that to just be like so much more fun, and I felt like much more at home. I got a few internships here in Chicago, and one of them was at Phosphor Games.
They are immortals.
I was working on this game called WWE Immortals, which was like a mobile free-to-play game that involved WWE wrestlers, but they're all like fantasy versions of them. You kind of just button mashed your way through and bought these like booster packs and stuff. And then we were being contracted for NetherRealm, the company in Chicago here that makes the Mortal Kombat games, because we were reskinning their mobile game that they had made, which was Injustice Mobile. Once that project was done, we got poached to work on the same mobile game again called Injustice 2, which was like, so I got to make like multiple character card collecting free-to-play games. Yeah, so working on like mobile free-to-play games at other companies was a very good like learning experience from a like craftsmanship point of view. In a way, it also informed from a game designer point of view, like all the things I didn't want to do. So I knew I wanted to make something, that a single person could play, and that sort of really respected your time, and there weren't these like, loot crate mechanics. And in a way, I
went
wanted
old school
to
with
just
it.
make something that was about the things I loved in games growing up. And I feel like throughout my professional career, I never had the opportunity to do that. I was always sort of making games for people that weren't me. I was never like sort of included in the audience for the things I was working on. So around that time, I started working on Animal Well. I actually used it during my job application. I showed like a very early prototype where it was still just like this very primitive, like almost NES style, like pixel art game. I think here's one of the earliest builds I still have available of Animal Wall. I think before it even had a name. The window's just called game, so there's one enemy in the game at this point. Is this ghost that just moves back and forth.
Okay.
So
Blasphemous vibes.
was not really thinking much about the actual game design yet. Just kind of getting the basic tech set up. I was just kind of subconsciously like drawing inspiration from all the games I like loved growing up, like Mario 2, 3, Zelda, like Metroid. These games where you kind of like explore a space, and you could tell like they were like designed with gameplay as the like first priority, and then the world was like kind of crafted after the fact to like justify like why you're doing the things you're doing. So I didn't start with a story or a character in mind or something. It was more just like, I think these would be fun mechanics, and then later on I'll figure out how it all fits together. I had like Animal Well as my sort of side project that I'd work on, like either on the the weekends or like a couple hours every day before work, and it was just kind of where I went to like still express all my like creative ideas and also program things in a way that was like very different than I was able to do.
That's awesome.
So yeah, Animal Well started that way as just like a blank C++ project, and I kind of wrote the renderer and the audio and handled input and all that stuff myself. It's just a Windows application. I used DirectX for graphics and Xaudio 2 to play back sounds. A lot of the sound effects in the game are just made from me messing around with different filters.
Oh, that's cool.
That's a good, it's like a power down sound. And this could be like, I don't know what that sound is. All right, we're in a windy tunnel. Yeah, honestly, most of the like ideation of the game just happened like while making the game. Because I'm just working alone, I never had to pitch sort of ideas or communicate with anyone of like, so there's no like artifacts of that communication process.
Oh, wow,
there's some like Google Docs I made where I'm like, this is the rough outline of like the things you'll do in the game. So there was a point where I started trying to like build up a framework for like how the world all fits together.
Damn, dude.
I take a lot of inspiration from spaces in the real world. Yeah, I live in Chicago, and oftentimes I'll walk around the neighborhood just trying to like kind of decompress and think of ideas, and oftentimes I'll walk past people's yards that are kind of filled with these lawn ornaments or like stone statues, and they're often whimsical or like of different animals, and oftentimes they're kind of like overgrown with like weeds or potted plants.
Okay.
Just kind of thinking, like, what is the thing that draws this all together? Is there some sort of underlying mythology that all these statues are a part of? All right, so here's like...
Dude, that is such a creative way of thinking about things. I love doing this, where you just see something like a lot of people probably would find dumb, like if you really think about this, like he's like, oh, I wonder if there's like a mythology behind these little yard statues, right? And a lot of people are like, what the hell's wrong with you? But like a creative, you're always like taking these things and kind of like, oh, but what if, and you kind of come up with interesting things to make it amusing or whatever it may be. And yeah, I love that he has that going into this.
Like a build.
And I loved the theme. Like, I didn't understand the theme, but it was just such a vibe. Like, it was so different than anything else I played.
Probably from, I think, 2019, where there were a lot more talking animals just scattered throughout the game. There's this zebra.
Oh, damn.
Just wants to ask you that. So those ghosts I showed you in the last build eventually got reskinned to be these blue mice.
Okay.
When I decided that the theme was animals. I came up with the name Animal Well probably after the first year of development. I found myself during that time just drawing a lot of animals. I knew I didn't really want humans in the game or real world elements, and I just find animals to be like more relatable or more universally like identifiable, like anyone can kind of see themselves in them. Yeah, this is in here. So this like crow enemy is one of the like first things that got designed, and I actually made it into the final game as like kind of a off the beaten path kind of thing, but this was very early on. I was just drawing a lot of watery, earthy, like architectural stuff, and again, like most of the development was,
which makes sense as he's pulling from like elements of Chicago as well. Like as a creative, I'm sure he took a lot of that in, and so he's got like that. It's almost, the game almost comes off as like this haunted, eerie, yet beautiful and elegant, abandoned city structure thing that's kind of overgrown with all these random animals in it. Like I like that. I like that you can see these elements, the influences where he like pulled from it.
Me just not really communicating with anyone. I was just doing what kind of came natural. And as I was taking a look at what I had made up until that point, just early on, and what I was enjoying making, I like crafting these like intricate architectural spaces. I like drawing animals. And it's like kind of a moody, uncanny atmosphere.
Okay.
So the name is just, it's kind of just descriptive, but also a little ambiguous. I didn't really want people to know for sure if the game takes place in a literal well or if it's like a metaphor. I thought it would be kind of cool to just like draw inspiration from the area I live in, because this is a game about atmosphere and mystery and is filled with secrets, and it's about uncovering something in a place where you thought you were already familiar with, and then later on it's revealed that this thing was there all along. That was like the feeling I wanted people to have while playing the game. In 2019, I took it to this IGDA holiday party, which was at a barcade here in Chicago.
Arcade.
And this was like a kind of an early prototype. It was sort of projected on a screen while people were just kind of like hanging out. People could go up and play the game if they wanted. I was very nervous about that, and I remember just like crunching on the game for a few months leading up to that, because that was the first time I needed to really like view the game through the eyes of like a real player, that someone that's not just like in my life already. But ultimately, it went pretty well. No one said anything mean, maybe because it was in a public space, and people kind of started asking me like what my plans were, and I was like getting progressively more sort of obsessed with thinking about it and working on it.
I love that.
And at that point, I was thinking about how can I like wrap this game up, and what.
Like as a creative, when you get in this kind of a zone, it is such a beautiful feeling. Like, oh, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. You just lock in and you're like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I know what I want to do with this. And you're confident about it. And not only are you confident about it, you're like, your thoughts are just circling it over and over, looking for flaws. And it's such a good feeling.
What should I ultimately do with it? Becoming like a valuable thing that I've like invested a lot of energy into.
Screw that cat,
It seems like it should actually be more than just like my side project. That
was like the first, like one of the revelations in this game that I was just like, so I'm going to drop some spoilers real quick. You had to take this Frisbee and you could find this fake disc to put this down. You got the Frisbee and you're like, oh, cool, you know? And then later what you really got to do is run through this series of areas to get this and put it on this pedestal, and the cat chases you the whole time, and I was beyond stressed, and I wasn't even sure if that's what I had to do, but it was just an idea that hit me, and that's what was so cool about this game. Like, you'd wander and you're like, I just don't know what I'm doing. Wait a second, what about this? That room that's like 20 rooms back had something like this in it. I wonder if those are connected. Would they do something like that? And then you kind of forget about it and you're messing around doing other stuff. And then you're like run into another puzzle that's just as complex. And you're like, if this is a thing that I can do, that might work too. And you go back to that. And it's
I work on indefinitely. I love making the game, but I hate like telling people about it or having to like pitch my ideas, or, you know, my idea of marketing at the time was like posting on Screenshot Saturday on Twitter, and I would get like 5 likes, and but it would take me like all afternoon to like think of like what the tweet should be. And it was just like a very vulnerable, like disheartening process. So the thought of having someone that could like email people and help me pitch to companies and, you know, like what events to apply for and stuff was like a lot of stress that could be eliminated from my life. So yeah, I emailed Dan.
So Billy kind of cold reached out to me. I want to say it was like March or February 2021. I'd have to go back and look through my emails. And he just reached out, said he'd heard of me, saw some of the work I'd done on other games, and wanted to see if I was interested in working on Animal Well.
I had recently been reminded about Dan Edelman. I saw this documentary on IGN.com about the making of Axiom Verge 2, and it's kind of reminded of Dan's role in that project, where Tom Happ works alone and handles all the development, is still like, for all intents and purposes, a solo developer, but then Dan kind of takes over all the business and marketing sides of things and kind of presents the game to the rest of the world.
He sent a very brief description, a couple screenshots and some GIFs, and I was like, I mean, sounds cool, but I'd like to play the game.
Guys, give me a second. My dogs are going nuts. Oh, my kid just got home. Hey, you want to take them out? I'm finishing up a video right now.
Can we go to Kids Kingdom after?
We'll talk about it. Love you. I'll be in a bit. Looks like I'm going to be taking the kids to the park. They just legit conned me into, they're like, you know what? Dad can't say no if he's on stream. Smart kids, smart kids.
So he like about a week later, he sent me a build.
My idea was like, if I could just get this one person like on board. I hadn't like pitched to anyone or emailed anyone. I didn't ask anyone for help. This was the first time. And I was like, if I could just get this one person on my team, then they can like do all the rest of that stuff, and I can remain isolated.
Normally there's like, you know, if it's really early in development, I'll just say like, well, let's keep in touch and see how it's coming along. But it was just like everything he had already done was just played so smoothly. Yeah, we had a conversation, and it looked like a really good meeting of the minds about what he needed and what kinds of things I could do. So yeah, we started working together pretty soon right after that.
That is like, I feel like marked the beginning of like it becoming a real serious project that had like a release plan.
All right, Dan, which one do I press?
The one on the right is okay.
Okay.
First thing that I noticed when I was playing a very early build of Animal Well was how I was losing track of time.
Yes, yes.
I was just exploring and enjoying, and the controls felt very responsive and intuitive, almost like I forgot I was playing a video game. It just, the connection between brain and screen was just, there was nothing in between.
And yeah, we got like a preview from IGN.com, which was cool, and PlayStation like announced the game for us on the PlayStation blog.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of just like, at that point it was like a public thing, and then started this kind of long process of continuing to market the game and apply for events.
Marketing's hard too, man.
We applied to be in Day of the Devs summer of 2022. We were lucky enough to like get accepted into that.
Hi, I'm Billy Basso. Today I'm going to be showing you a game I've been working on called Animal Well.
It was cool because it was kind of tacked on to the end of Summer Games Fest, which had like millions of viewers. So at the time, sort of started to figure out that we should be marketing the game in a way that like reflects how you play the game. So the game's very much about secrets and having there be sort of more than what is visible on the surface. So instead of just doing like traditional game marketing with like a trailer and showing the art and the gameplay, we wanted people to like get the sense that there's like layers to this experience. So we designed an ARG puzzle to like hide in our Day of the Devs video.
Also, there's a puzzle in this video that may require some community collaboration to understand. But the first 10 people to figure it out will get a free copy of the game at launch.
I was always amazed at the community's ability to solve the puzzles. We had a picture of this guy from like the 1700s or 1600s, and there was like a picture in the background of Billy's office, and somehow they figured out who that was and what that meant for the solution to this puzzle. And so I already knew that they were extremely capable.
Within like minutes of that getting live streamed, we had like hundreds of people like kind of flood in, and Dan posted this funny picture at the time and of like hyenas like tearing apart like a carcass, and that's what it felt like for them solving the puzzle. They're just like there was like multiple stages to it, and the first stage I think they figured out within like, I don't know, like 15 minutes.
Double Fine's event actually highlighted some of the more promising indie titles. The two that caught my eye were Shim, where you jump from shadow to shadow,
that does look
and
kind of cool,
Animal
actually.
Well. Every game at E3 is trying to be cute and loud. These games look like they actually might be fun.
We were getting coverage from being part of Summer Games Fest.
Curious about the shadow one.
Donkey made a video kind of summarizing everything that was shown, and Donkey gave a little bit of a mention to Animal Well, and I thought he was going to make fun of the game, but he said like, "Oh, it actually looks like it might be good." And that was like the highest praise I could ever hope to get.
I watch E3 and it's like 300 games, and I love video games, but it's like 300 video games, and I'm like, I don't want to play any of these. And it's like, I was like, oh, there's one that kind of looks cool.
And we saw from just that like 5-second mention, we got like a noticeable bump in wish lists, which were becoming more and more important.
One of the challenges was, I was telling him, like, I really like playing this game, but no single screenshot really captures what's special about the game. Even a quick video like snippet of the gameplay doesn't capture that feeling of like what happens when you uncover some secret and
it's all about the
figure it out.
Yeah, when you figure out like a secret that you've just been bothering you, you're like, I feel like there's a way I should be able to get to this wall, and then you realize, oh no, if I go all this crazy route, you start running through this map to try to figure out what you need to do, or you're interacting with certain things, you're just like trying to figure it out, and it is such a good feeling when you finally get there.
But on your own. So we struggled for a long time to figure out how best to communicate that element of the game. And once we kind of caught the eye of Video Game Donkey and Leah, once they kind of shined a spotlight on it, the issue of how do we get people even to notice this game went away.
From there, I looked up the game on Twitter, and I like followed, I think it was Billy and Dan, or maybe it was the Animal account and Dan. And I just kind of followed it to keep tabs, like, you know, because Jason was interested and it looked cool, so. Dan
started messaging Leah on Twitter, or they started like a conversation got started. Just replied to say like, thank you. I'm like, happy you guys, thank you for giving us like a little shout out earlier that summer.
Dan and I just started talking in the DMs on Twitter, and he did thank, because he noticed and knew I was Jason's wife, so he was like, you know, thanks to him for shouting out Animal Well. And then offered us to play a demo even, and then I was like really excited about it and told him that, you know, we're getting into this indie publishing stuff, and just so you know, like if you're gonna send us our demo, like, you know, maybe something to keep in mind too that we're doing this, so.
And he sent us a little demo of what he had. And yeah, I think you could already ride the Frisbee, so that's like, I was like, oh, you could bounce on the Frisbee and it doesn't even like tell you that at all. Doesn't even telegraph this. It's just like, oh. And I was like, oh, we gotta publish this. This is gonna be good.
So this was before you started Big Mode? Like, is the Animal Well kind of what inspired you guys to publish things?
Well, we saw Animal. I saw Animal Well first. It was kind of like happened right on top of each other. Today, I got a big announcement for you. Me and Leah have been hard at work for a while now, getting all this set up, and now we're finally ready to tell you about it.
So this is how I discovered it then, through Donkey.
Game publishing company. Big Mode. The starting of Big Mode, yes. That was, I think, Leah's idea.
So yeah, I don't have any previous experience, so much that like I didn't really even understand the whole relationship between publishers and developers and any of that side of things when it came to games, but I had just kind of always been a fan and following various indie games online, and I would see them like trying to get funding, and I would see them kind of get like stuck in development and things like that. So
that is exactly how Chuck and I jumped into publishing. We had no idea the relationship between a publisher and an author. We had no idea what to an editor of anything, like nothing, zero information before we started that. We did a lot of research, a lot.
I was just kind of saying to Jason,
and you look dumb a lot sometimes too. But if you're willing to do that, you know, it is what it is. You just explain, hey, listen, I know it's a little unorthodox, but and most people are down to help you out, or they're honest.
That I wish we could just like fund their game and like help it get made, and he was like, well, that's what publishing is, and I was like, oh, right, someone else came up with that idea already.
And then we made it.
I love that. So
we
wholesome.
announced it, and then the fans were like, yeah, that's cool, and then some people were like, that's really dumb, we hate you.
Yeah,
they got mad at me, but yeah, it worked out.
So we didn't have any intentions of like getting a publisher. We were gonna just self-publish at the time, but it just seemed like too good of an opportunity to pass up. So yeah, we scheduled it.
So I think I was mistaken quite a bit, though. I think I've said this a few times, that it was a single guy that created it, and he was a YouTuber. I actually think Donkey is the YouTuber I was thinking of. And then this guy, so it's actually kind of a partnership that got going on here. He obviously created the game, but had people come in and help out, which I definitely respect. Sometimes you just can't do it all yourself.
A few meetings.
And it gave him time to like really polish this project.
With them over like, I think Google Hangouts or whatever.
And I was like, kind of thinking Billy Basso was such like a outlandish name. I was like, is that really his real name? So I like wanted to ask him about his name. And I was sort of thinking, well, this game has sort of reminded me of Fez a lot. I wonder if it's like a Phil Fish tribute, like Billy Basso, Phil Fish. It was so like, I don't know. So I was like just curious about him and like, who's this guy, Billy Basso? And
yeah, they just seemed really nice. And I was worried about, giving up creative control or having them be like overly opinionated. And that just like didn't end up being the case at all. They wanted to be very respectful of sort of the existing creative direction of the game.
I think he actually said on the phone, like, oh, I just want it to be the best it can be, basically. And so I was like, okay, yeah, he's like really genuinely like, this is kind of his baby and he really cares about this. And, that's what we were really looking to support.
So badass. Guys, that is so badass in a publisher. That you give full creative control, especially when you recognize it's like genius at work, like that's huge. Publishers are so known for just taking advantage and, like kind of pushing something that they prefer because they think it'll make them more money. But it doesn't always work out, but man, a lot of times when you have someone that really, really has a good, solid passion project, it's either going to get a cult following or, I don't know. At least it's genuine, right?
We ended up kind of working with them.
Yeah, hello. I am Funny Man Video Game Donkey from Big Mode Publishing. I am joined today by the creator of Animal Well, Billy Basso.
Hello, I'm Billy Basso, the developer of Animal Well. I've been working on Animal Well for over 5 years at this point. All alone, just trying to give people the experience of finding something new in a place they've already been before.
That following January, we announced like our partnership, and it was like a really explosive moment for like the game's public profile. We got like just like a ton of coverage and like wish lists at the time, and it was probably almost like tenfold what we like had before. Yeah, so it was just like very exciting. At that point, I knew like I can like really probably stop worrying about the marketing of the game, and I could just go back to working and focusing fully on development. I would say the scope was gradually increasing as time went on. I think the more coverage the game got, the higher the expectations were for it, at least for me internally. There's also like this like sunk cost fallacy where, you know, the more time you invest in something, the more it needs to like pay off. I kind of just retreated from public view just to like fully focus on making the best game I could possibly make.
I don't remember that Fox.
So Jason and I would like both play every new build that got put out, and we would kind of find different things because you can go so many different routes in the game. So we would both stumble upon different things.
I would come in the room and Leah would be in this like weird room. I'm like, what? That's in Animal World? That's in the game?
Dude, 100%. My wife Minion and I, Minion Madness, we did this exact same thing. I'd be in a totally different area than she was in, and I'm like, what? And the one, shout out to Dugan. Dugan, I wish he would come back to this game, man. This was so enjoyable to watch Dugan play. I know he didn't really enjoy the game because he didn't know what was going on, but it was incredibly enjoyable to watch Dugan play this. And it was that was another cool thing. Like, he was in a different area than I was in, and then my wife was in a different area than both of us were in, and I'm like, how big is this freaking game? Like, there's too much to explore here. I don't know. You know, it was a little overwhelming, but at the same time, like, okay, I need to find where they're at, and it made it kind of more fun too to play that way. Again, another reason I really enjoy this little random ass tourney that we threw. It just, some of these games you find were awesome, but obviously some of them are rough too. But
so yeah, don't you know how to do this? I mean, no, I didn't know that was in there. You know, he'd go on the call with Billy. You know, like, Billy, you did this? I was like, oh yeah, it's been in there for 3 months. You guys didn't know about that? What? He would be so secret with us. Even like, you know, we were publishing it with him, and he would just be like totally secret about the stuff in there. He's like, no, I'm not telling you.
I love that.
We gotta know about it. He's like, no, it's secret. You'll find it.
It got a little frustrating sometimes thinking about all of the puzzles. Like there were times I was like, I know there's a puzzle here, and I think there's something I need to do with this. And Billy would say like, yeah, there might be. That's a good point. That's a good observation, and that's all he would tell me.
Yeah, Billy's more than slightly evil, I think. He's definitely got an evil streak. He played a lot of tricks on us. Yeah, there was this fanny pack in the game, and it's a prize that is still in the game, but at first he had put it as the prize for getting all of the eggs, which, like, if you've played, getting all the eggs is a big task.
It is,
and
yeah.
Then at the end of it, you got this fanny pack, and you were like, is he really, would Billy really do this?
He's like a genius level guy, like thinking like the most devious. He's so devious.
He's so devious.
That was our big contribution to Animal Well, is like just trying to talk Billy away from just making it evil. We're like, Billy, it should be a little less evil. It should be less evil. And then eventually he'd be like, all right, I'll make it a little less evil this way.
Yeah, ultimately the fanny pack did move. So that was good.
What?
When I work with solo developers, I'm not so much worried about scope creep and things like that as much as I am about
I want that t-shirt. I want that
the
t-shirt
mental
so
health
bad.
of the person working on the game. That's probably a bigger consideration of like, how much pressure are they under? Are they, you know, crunching? Game development can feel like a very isolating experience, and one of the many hats that I wear is like sometimes just like therapist, where like, yeah, just vent about the problems you're having and like, you know, use me as a sounding board to brainstorm ideas off of like, you know, challenges that you're facing.
For a long time, it was just like nonstop thinking about the game. And it wasn't so much that like I had this external deadline, it was more the game had just grown into this like obsession.
There were multiple times when I thought the game was pretty much done, and I was like, Billy, I think you can ship it now. And Billy was like, no, there's a lot more I still want to put in this game.
I didn't want there to be any regrets about what made it into the game or not after the fact, because another sort of constraint I put on myself and sort of principle I had is I didn't want the game to ever be updated with extra content, and I didn't want
telling
there to
you,
be
Mom,
DLC
Dugan needs to come back to it.
I wanted
Dugan needs to come back to it. That was one of the most enjoyable 2 hours of gameplay that I had seen from him. Obviously, the scares were all fun when he did the horror stuff. and just his complete befuddlement of this game. It was so much fun to watch. So much fun. And I really wish he would go back to it.
I wanted to just feel like this like complete artifact or like object that like the games I grew up with, where it has a start and an end, and whatever's in it is in it, and it will always be that way, and you'll be able to replay it decades from now and it will be the same thing. It'll still be there.
That's fucking awesome.
The only way to move beyond it was to finish the game.
Damn, I'm gonna have to replay this damn game again. Eventually.
So on May 9th,
I'll give it a little bit.
2024, a release date finally arrived. For the past like 7 years, I had been sort of like anticipating this day and sort of playing it out in my mind. I would say for like the months leading up to it, it felt like every one of those days was like the day before a release date. I was just like kind of just like indescribably anxious and excited the whole time.
It's a weird feeling.
Yeah, so I got up early that day. Dan flew into Chicago, and we just like got into my office and we just got ready to like press the release button on Steam, and the consoles were sort of scheduled to go live.
All right, everyone. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
1 second early.
Oh, that's okay.
It's loading.
Oh no!
Come on.
Oh, that's such a cool.
I should have clicked it 10 seconds early.
Oh no! Okay, everyone will just think it's their own internet.
Yeah.
Their own.
Okay.
Oh, there it goes.
All right.
Yay! Congratulations!
And yeah, it was honestly just like extremely surreal, like watching like the review scores come in and seeing people stream the game, and that whole day was kind of a blur of sitting in my office and just watching the world all gain access to the game.
Oh, I'm so cute. I'm just a little guy.
Animal Well.
Fascinating game. It's a passion project that's been worked on for 7 years by a solo developer named Billy Basso, who has done the entire
Love
game
Charlie,
himself.
Dude. Watch out, there's a door. Yeah, we gotta. What the
Oh, the wiener dog can go in the tunnel. That's terrifying.
Dude, that scared the shit out of me.
Incredible at evoking things in a wordless, beautiful visual wonder.
I'm now dubbing Animal Well my new favorite video game of all time.
I'm just almost like numb.
It's up in the top 10
amount of
probably
like
for me.
stimulation.
Not only is Animal Well lovely to behold and a pleasure to bound around, it's a puzzle lover's paradise.
It felt like the stars like all aligned at launch, and the review scores were much higher than I was expecting. I think just on average, people really got
Well deserved. 10 out of 10
what we
for
were
me.
going for, and I was kind of surprised by that. I thought it would be a more niche game, but it achieved a level of like widespread appeal that was very surprising to me.
You know, this was the good game, but like being good doesn't really mean you're successful anymore. Like even if you make a really good game, I don't know. I didn't think people would like it as much as they did, even though it was a great game. You know, but people really they liked it. I was like, wow, you guys like it. You guys still like good games. Okay.
I feel like we need to go into the dark areas to find the matches.
Yeah, they immediately like kind of took to like the secret hunting.
There's more faces. I feel like the faces mean something.
I tried to design some puzzles that were like,
Yeah,
as
I still
hard
haven't
as
figured
could
that out.
Possibly imagine. The fan base they already were looking for puzzles like in just previews and stuff. Like people would be like analyzing the footage and speculating on like what background elements might be part of a later game puzzle. And a lot of times they were right. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this was like, you weren't supposed to find this, but you're like almost solving the puzzles before you even have your hands on it.
Yeah, the secrets Billy thought would take like 10 years or something, he said. They found it all out in like the first week.
To truly hide something in the game nowadays is arguably impossible. You just have the internet now, which allows people to like communicate faster than ever. So you no longer have this like schoolyard word of mouth, like slow dissemination of information.
I will say though, this was the closest thing to that I have seen in a long time. where like so many people were actively talking about this game and like how to solve it. And I haven't seen anything like that in a long, long time. Like it was cool.
Yeah, the Discord was just like insane to watch. It had like just thousands of people, just like night and day, just sort of brute force attempting like every possible thing you could imagine doing in the game. It's very fun. It's very fun to watch because it only like kind of happens once.
Yeah.
I am motivated, I think, in the future to even go farther than that.
That would be
It's still
awesome.
Like
I'm telling you what, man. I'm in. Like, I'm in. Straight up. Like that. I'm not smart. I'm not a smart man. I'm not even a fan of puzzles. But there was just something about that game and the way the puzzles worked. Like, it was just real smooth.
Something I'm interested in doing. Like, what does it take to truly hide something?
We were nominated for probably over like 60 awards that we were nominated for.
The nominees for Outstanding Achievement in Game Direction are Animal Well.
My main motivation while working on this project for so long was just to make a game that I found interesting, that I would want to play. And if you want to make something that is different and stays true, you need to make something that you would want to play. Like, you can't predict what other people want, and you can't really chase trends reliably. You as a person only have one thing you can be certain of, and it's your own opinion.
And the winner is Animal Well.
Hey!
We won an award for Best Game Direction, which I think is kind of funny because I didn't direct anybody other than myself when making the game. All right, wow.
I think game direction, though, is more so like the mapping out of it, like the twists and turns of it. I think that's kind of the gist of that, at least in my opinion.
I was not expecting this, but yeah, so Animal Well is pretty much the result of me being kind of like left to my own devices throughout all of development. If I were able to like see myself now from the point of view of when I was like 12 years old or something, like, yeah, it would just be the most amazing news. I would be so happy, and I probably wouldn't believe that it would be possible. Yeah, I'm just super grateful. This is amazing. Thank you so much.
I'm just really grateful that I was able to do this, and I really just like can't like thank people enough. All the help I got from Dan and Big Mode, and thanks to all the fans and people, you know, writing guides and maintaining the wiki and the mods for the Discord, and it's just become something so much bigger than I ever made it on my own. And I am starting to dabble and set up a new project that is, again, sort of serving as that fun.
I'm telling you what, dude. Don't tease me.
Escape from the more serious work. So yeah, still very busy despite finishing the game, but yeah, I definitely plan on making another one.
Yes!
Are there still secrets in the game? I don't know.
Devious son of a bitch, dude. Oh, all right, that was fantastic. That was a great video. Great video. I'm gonna drop this in chat for all of you wonderful people that have been watching. If you want to give that check her out and do me a favor, give that a like as well. That's awesome. Definitely like it ourselves. And Second Wind's first premium documentary project. We sat down with Billy Basso to tell the story of development of his critically acclaimed game, Animal Well. Honestly, I shouldn't be looking around while these credits are going, because this is huge. ADHD is the son of a gun. Tom said it's a great game. I can see it having another one. Yeah, that is super exciting for me. You really liked us watching us play it. Well, I'm glad. It was such a weird game to play too. Like, just out of, my friends were all talking shit about me because I was so like loving that game. They're like, dude, I didn't want the game to ever be updated. I want it to feel complete. And yet there is a section of the map you can't get to in normal gameplay. I guess that's Billy Basso being devious. He got one evil bit in there. Guy is a troll. I gotta respect it. Yeah, there's one that's like the only way to get there is to cheat. And I think it deletes your whole save when you do cheat, which is insane. So like, he basically tricked some random person into deleting their save, if I remember right. I'm a puzzle nerd to the core, so it was amazing. Dude, I like a good puzzle, but it's all in situational. Like horror game puzzles, I don't like those. I don't understand them. It's hard for me to comprehend. Blasphemous, like the Metrovania where it's 2D, for some reason, I really dig those kind of puzzles. But when it gets 3D, I start struggling with the puzzles, and I don't understand why. It just feels over complex for me. These 40 minutes simply breezed by. I think you know you've created something truly special. When people talking and managing things about it is engrossing work in itself. I agree with that. I really loved that they showed kind of the publishing side behind it too, and the cooperative joint effort there. And it's refreshing to see. Like I said, when Chuck and I started publishing, that's the way we jumped into it. And there was a lot of oof moments where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. You embarrass yourself a few times because you don't know what the typical industry standards are and stuff like that. But if you're not afraid to ask questions, most people are willing to help, or at least understand that you don't come from a traditional, publishing setting in that case. So it was really cool to see the behind the scenes of that as well, and people doing the same thing as us. So funny how well written Donkey scripts and random tangents are in his videos. But as soon as he's recording something live in front of camera, he's super awkward. I loved Animal Well. Star Providence is another hit that I'm having a blast with, and I can't wait to see what games they'll pick up next. I was flabbergasted when it didn't get win Game of the Year. Same, honestly, I really was. Like, I thought crazy. I think it's just too small of a style, maybe too niche of a, I don't know. It was really popular. Cozy and endearing as heck, walking away from the computer with warm fuzzies. Thanks, team. Yeah, that was a good video to watch on the way out here, chat. Because now I get to go take my kids to the park. Got to go have some fun with them. Again, make sure you give that video a likey like.